Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good wherever you are in your time of day. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is a part of our product management leadership series. And so today we'll be discussing how to manage your career like a product. My name is Todd Blaquiere. I'm a principal consultant and trainer here at 280 Group. And on the next slide here, I'll introduce Leah Tharin. I'm excited to introduce Leah Tharin because she's a product lead, principal product manager at Smallpdf. And she's going to give you some more insight into her in a few slides. And Leah, if you can go to the next slide really quick. She'll give you some more information about her in a few slides. But I'm excited because Leah is about to take over the world. That's where she sits right now. She is taking over the product management world. I'm calling it right now. So you guys get to be here and learn from her, and that's exciting for you. Now let's go over a few housekeeping items. So first off, our mission is to empower product professionals with the knowledge and tools to build products that matter. Unlike other companies, we're focused on just the needs of the product professionals. So whether you need help as an individual growing your knowledge and skills, or you're working on improving your team's effectiveness, we have the experience and services that will take you to the next level. So you can check us out at 280group.com. And we'll have a link in the chat for that if you need to use that. You can also join our LinkedIn group. And so we invite you to join our exclusive LinkedIn product management community, where you can chat about the best practices and tips. And you can access this group using the link in the chat box. So you have another link there. And finally, some housekeeping about the webinar itself. 280 Group, we love interacting with you. We want this to be a conversation. So please, during this discussion, during this webinar, feel free to ask questions. You can use the Q&A box. It should be at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and you can type in questions at any time. We'll leave time at the end for Q&A, although we might also take questions throughout the webinar. So our most popular question I'll answer right now is, can I watch this webinar later? The answer is yes. All attendees will receive a link to view the webinar recording after it is ended. And now let's get started with the exciting stuff. Hand the reins to you, Leah.
Thank you so much. So it's news to me that I'm going to take over the world. Thank you very much. It's really interesting. I did not think about how we're going to rule the product world yet, but yeah, okay, but it's cool. Yeah, no pressure, right? No pressure. So hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. I'm going to talk on the topic about how to manage your career like a product. There will be hopefully some really actionable takeaways, and I'm going to also tell you who I am. But first of all, if you want to, this is a totally optional step. You can go on your phone or on your desktop where you are right now to menti.com, which is a really cool tool to interact with the presentation as we go along. It's completely anonymous, and you can enter the code 41849190. Nicole, if you would be so nice, you can also put this into the chat. Or I will also show this code as we go along in case you would be locked out or whatever. There's not a lot of questions here. It's just to get something started afterwards. And there is already a question that is, what is your current product management level, or like your PM level? We're going to get to these slides in a second. But as you go, just please also use this and to interact with the presentation. You also have a chance of asking questions in there, just like as in Zoom. It doesn't matter where you do it. Either you do it in the chat, you do it on Menti. Todd and me will look at both. I really want to also enable you to ask questions that are specific. I'm not afraid of any questions. I love difficult questions. So please use this time to ask your questions. You can ask them anonymously if you want to. There's no stupid questions. Please don't be afraid, and please engage with us. I'm happy to tackle the curveballs and the really difficult ones. All right, so let's just get into this and who I am. So my name is Leah Tharin. I look very straight into the camera, as you can see here. It's very good. So this is my official CV. This is the boring part, but let's get through it. I've been 22 years in tech, 10 years of that in UX research. So not on top, right? So like that was within the 22 years. Otherwise, I would be a little bit old. And then 12 years of that in product management. And I've been a principal product manager at Smallpdf. Smallpdf is a document management solution system, or like a platform, a SaaS business that is having dozens of millions of users every month. So it's a huge platform. Lots of you probably know it. And yeah, I had 2 successful exits in my life with companies that I've worked at. And that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Right? But it's not always the truth. So let's look at my actual CV, right? So this is not the stuff that you're going to see on LinkedIn. And I want to talk about this also in this presentation quite a lot, about the real side of career management, the real side of product management. I don't want to scare you in any way, right? But like, I also want to tell you that there's a human side to everything. And one of them is that I sucked at my job until my mid-30s. So now you know that I'm older than my mid-30s, so that's already good. So let's hope I have progressed over this phase a little bit. And I sucked at my job despite having decades of experience in the industry. And I just really want to say that you can actually get stuck in your career quite a lot for several reasons. I was unfortunate because, well, I was not unfortunate because this is happening for a lot of people, right? So like, I had to deal with a very heavy imposter syndrome and a bad theoretical foundation. I was very unremarkable and I just got by in my job. I would not have hired me today in the way that I was back then for many reasons, right? So the bad theoretical foundation, I did not know a lot. I also didn't know how to move out of it. And I just felt that I was worthless, right? I was not good at my job. I also crashed and failed at 2 companies that I found that was within my control and I could not manage to get them off the ground. So you see, there's also a dark side to this, right? So like there's these 2 companies I could not lift from the ground. And then at some point, so that was the depressing part. So now at some point I took charge of my career and I tried to really turn it around. There were a couple of factors to this. I don't want to get too much into detail because this is not about me, but more about you guys in the end. I tried to adopt a growth mindset. We're going to talk about what this actually means, and this is important for your career. I now have, for whatever is worth, right? So like these are my features, if you want to call it this. I'm running a podcast that is taking off right now, which I'm really proud of. LinkedIn, I write a lot about, and Substack, which is a newsletter. And I'm focusing on product-led growth and organizational scaling. These are 2 topics that fascinate me and that I want to talk about. I now advise companies, which are usually pre-Series B. None of this tells you whether I do my job well, but at least it tells you that people are trusting me to give my advice to them at least, right? And I love my job where I am right now, and I love where I am today. Like in my entire universe that I've created for myself, also in my career growth, I love where I am. And I think that is a successful career. And it doesn't matter whether you have a management title, whether you're an associate or a junior or whatever there is for you. It's about loving to be where you are, loving yourself, and also loving where you are. And you can actually work on this, right? So let's get into this. So the first one is, again, as I said, the first question is going to be, what would you like to get better at? There's a couple of questions on Menti. Please go to menti.com, desktop or mobile, and then enter the code 41849190. I hope it's correct. Some of you already answered some questions. So we have the first one here. That would be, we have a lot of mid-level PMs here, right? So that's really good. We have 1 head of. Very good. Senior director. So we have mostly people on the from associate to senior PM. So that's also great. The other ones don't have to log off. That's not what I mean, but like we're a diverse field here. And that's very nice. So how big is the company that you're working at? Because that will also be one of the factors that we're going to talk about. So please vote on this. Usually in my career, I mostly worked in smaller companies in the sense of like 200 and slower or lower, like in the sense of like the time frame. But I also worked at huge companies like Microsoft that had like 90,000 people working at them at some point as well. And so I know both sides, but I have my opinions where I like to work. So we see that most people are actually working on bigger companies. Let's just call 200 and bigger, but like this is already usually the size where friction is starting to develop. You have multiple teams, you have maybe even politics going on, whereas in the lower segments, you just have this chicken coop feeling that I need to do everything in my life. I don't know what's going on, but we're also going to talk about that. So here's the question that I actually wanted to ask you in the first place, and you can give multiple answers if you want to. What do you want to become better at? Please write down 1 word that you can think of, or like a sentence, whatever. Like if you want to become better at cooking spaghetti, you can also put that in there. Just put whatever comes to your mind in there. We're going to return to this in a second, or like in a couple of minutes, and we're gonna look at it. So you can just keep filling this as you want. By the way, I made this picture with an AI. yesterday. I thought it's pretty cool. It's a product manager that is infused with data and stuff. So this is an AI picture. It's pretty cool.
That is really cool.
It's really cool. I know.
There's some. There's some resemblance to you too. So how'd you do that?
Yeah. So it only made the nose correct, and then it made everything pretty. So it only got my nose correct. So that's it.
That's fantastic.
All right. Cool. So I'm going to talk about 3 different things in this presentation. The first one is some general wisdom pieces. So, you know, like we're just going to go through this kind of stuff. Then how to build an effective growth plan for yourself. And then some practical growth loops, right? I want you to be able to take something from this that is very practical, that I've tested, that I know is working. And I think if you understand the principle behind this, then you can also set something up for yourself that works for you in this sense. Because the base principle underneath it all is always the same. So let me just spill some general wisdom. And please, as I already said, you should have the ability on Menti as well after you're done with the other question to ask questions. You can also do it on Zoom again. Please don't be shy as we go along, especially if something is unclear. Todd will pick up your questions and then just interrupt me and tell me what I did wrong. All right, so the very first one. In order to develop your career, you need to be proactive. And I'm saying this now on the background of my CV that I shared with you before. You need to prioritize yourself or you will get stuck. I hear too many times in the coachings of other PMs, external, internal, it doesn't really matter. I don't have time for growth. There's too much work to do. We're releasing a feature. I don't have time. It's your fault. You need to prioritize yourself to some degree, because it will help you and it will also help the job. I cannot tell you how much the wisdom that I gained from other people have actually helped me become better at my particular job. I was mediocre because I never found the time to grow. I also didn't know how, right? So like that's the other part of it, but don't under prioritize yourself. Your growth is extremely important and don't let anyone else tell you something else. If you ever land with a boss, with a manager that does not allow you to grow, this is a problem, right? So like you'd also need to be enabled for this. So this is a good, this is the first kind of wisdom.
Quick question there, Leah.
Go ahead.
So I want to hear what you think of this. I have my own answer, but yeah. What do you, where is this growth mostly going to happen? Is it going to happen while you're at work? Is it going to happen while you're away from work? Is it a combination of the two?
I'm going to get into this with some practical examples afterwards.
Right.
And I think it's a very great, it's a good question, because there's this tension between theoretical knowledge and then also experience knowledge, right? So like ideally you do it in your job. That's always the best, right? Like, but it's not always possible. I'm going to have some examples on why I think sometimes it's not possible. And that's where you actually can have leverage. So I'm just going to pause this question for a little bit later, if that's okay. And we're just going to go. So let's just look at how product managers, and I hope everybody in this call is aware and everybody should go like, yes, Leah, yeah. We're going to prioritize outcome over output, right? So like when we are producing a product, we are talking about what is the impact that we're going to have for our users instead of the features that we ship. And what that means for your career is that you should not chase a title as a goal. That is an output without quality. I know that I'm pretty sure that most people in this call right now do not agree with me, because somewhere in ourselves, we fucking love titles. We really, really, really love it, right? Like we love to be called a senior. We love to be called a principal, this, whatever. Like, I mean, I'm going to be the leader of the world, right? That's going to be really nice. But it is inefficient. It is inefficient and it is obscuring your personal growth potential. In the end, a successful career or your job title is an outcome of your skills increasing and getting an awareness of what's needed in the market and how to showcase your value, right? So like I need to display what I can so you land in the correct environment. Let's say your skills are a linear thing. And here is, I suck at what I do. And here is, I'm the best professional of my life that I can be. If you're somewhere over here and you never prioritize your growth, you can maybe fake it a little bit over here towards the outward perception, but you're never going to get here. You're never going to lead a company. You're never going to be someone that has the responsibility of that you actually want to have, right? Because at some point you really need to develop these skills, and you cannot do that if you constantly pretend that you are somewhere else than that you actually are. I had people in my calls, or like people that are introducing themselves, so like, hey, I'm person A, I'm person B, I'm the CTO, I'm the CEO. So how many people do you have? Yeah, it's just us two, right? So like titles are very, very relative, right? And they don't have meaning per se. It's really about your skills. And whether you like this or not is besides the point, because people like me who hire, we know we will immediately recognize someone that has just a title for vanity, right? It's just what it is. And it's very easy to recognize. So therefore, chase personal growth as your goal. I cannot stress this enough. Your career is a result of the skills that you have. And this is not me talking as an idealist. As a product manager, you need to show the impact that you had throughout your career in your CV with the courses that you took, the experience that you applied from it, and then the impact that you had in the business. So here's the next piece of wisdom in this regard, and that is you deserve to be here, and never doubt that. Whenever you go into a new company, and I think most people can now relate to this, it is very difficult. You're going into a new space. You think like your colleagues, you know, especially also in the bigger companies, there's a lot of anonymous faces. You may be thinking that you don't belong here or whatever. Imposter syndrome is absolutely real up to the very top. I don't know a single person that has never dealt with this at some point in their life. We deal with it often. It goes up to the very high level. We mess up all the time. And I really want to quickly talk about this because I think it's important to also say how things are. I'm dealing with this as well sometimes, especially when I talk about specific concepts that are relatively out there, right? So like I'm doing research, I think I'm really certain about the things that I'm talking, but then as soon as I hit the publish button, I'm like, what if this person sees it? And then is this actually, am I sure about what I'm saying here? Do I have a right to talk about this? So let's say we're looking at this and we go with the definition that is on Wikipedia. I think it's from Wikipedia, but like the official definition of an imposter syndrome is that this is an internal psychological experience in which one believes that they are not as competent as others perceive them to be, as if they are a fraud. We have weekly, daily failures up to the top. Something always goes wrong. Our data infrastructure breaks down because I forgot to book a license or something. You have daily drama over there. This is breaking. Someone forgot to do this. QA was not good. An engineer just completely broke the entire deployment. The system went down for 2 hours. Nobody noticed, that kind of stuff. This happens all the time. We are not perfect. We're very far from perfect. But this is important to know because that also means that we should not expect from you, and you should not expect from yourself, that you're perfect. There is no need to do this, right? And one of the problems that this perception is actually happening is that it's not often talked about. And that's why I want to bring it out to you also in a webinar like this. We are all winging it to some degree. Everybody who says otherwise is full of it, right? We have experience and it can help us to be more right than we were when we were unexperienced, but we make sometimes decisions that are just wrong. And one of the reasons for this is that when you are in leadership, the high reward decisions that have low risk, we give actually to people below us. We give them that, right? So they can execute, and we need to take the ones that have high risk and high reward. So they will fail, right? They will often fail. And then we have to stand in front of the crowd and say like, guys, we made a mistake. I'm sorry, right? Like I made it bad for you guys. It was not intentional, right? But like, you know, like things can go wrong. So the message here is like, don't get discouraged, push through obstacles. You will run into a lot of obstacles in your career, and it doesn't matter whether you're the head of growth or the director of product or the associate PM. The good thing is the lower you are in the ranks, the more you can also, usually the juniors have more of a growth mindset than the more senior people sometimes. And that is because they have accepted that they're juniors. It's kind of expected from them to learn. Never lose that. Be a junior all your life. That's what I can tell you as well. And that's also what got me out of this hole that, that I had a couple of years ago. All right, before we go to individual contributor management, let's just really go quickly here through this one, because this is also like, so what do you want to get better at? We have writing, analytics, influencing, leadership strategy is a very, very common one. Communication, product strategy, again, requirements, influencing, analytics. Okay, all of these, and even including writing, by the way, I think also this is a skill that can be really helpful, like communicating your ideas as a PM is a great thing. Thank you so much for these great answers. That's really cool. Okay, we're going to talk about some of these. We're not going to talk about analytics, unfortunately, but I'm sure there's a course for that on 280. All right, so let's talk quickly about individual contributor and management track. I just want to make clear that everybody's on the same page for this. So if we talk about levels, and let's just put numbers on it, it doesn't mean that a lower number is worth less or whatever. Usually we have associates and juniors. It's like the first level, or sometimes above, sometimes below, whatever. And then we have the normal product managers, normal, not on a mental state, but like just like product managers. And then we have the senior PMs. And that is usually where it becomes complicated. So in a lot of tech companies now, we have individual contributor tracks, which allow you to stay operatively involved with the teams without having management experience. That is the first decision that you have to make at some point in your career. Do I want to follow the individual contract, the individual contributor track, or am I going to go to the management track where I'm going to be a group PM, then a director, and then a VP product, and I'm going to be the coolest person in the world? In my opinion, the group PM is a very special role. If executed right, in most companies that I know from tech, where you can try out both. Because you will have, usually if it's well structured, you have like half of it is like strategic, you're trying to steer a business, but you don't have an operational team anymore, but you are somehow also a little bit operatively involved with the other product managers that you are managing. The reason why I'm mentioning these two tracks is that for some reason, most PMs think that the bottom track is more attractive. Management positions are not always the best idea. But people think for some reason that they're more valuable. That is not true. Also in our company, if you're a principal PM, you're paid exactly the same as if you had the same level as in management. Same for staff, same for lead, doesn't matter, right? Management means you're more strategical, less operative. If you love creating products with your teams, that means you're going to do less of that. You just need to be aware of this, right? And for management, this is what we call the product leadership canyon. This is also quite difficult. What got you to this point here, to the senior PM, will not get you to the management track necessarily. There are some exceptions. Some people straight up start as a VP product or a head of product because they're founders. They found the company, then the teams grow. They want to stay in product, and now suddenly they're a head of product. Then they call me and they say, Leah, I'm a head of product. I have no idea about product. That is a very, very difficult situation to be in because now you need to build up all these skills that you don't have. Very common, super common. But normally for product managers that go through the entire motions, you usually come up here and then you cannot continue what you did because up till here, you were developing a very specific product with a very specific area to take care of. This was what you were optimizing. And now here you need to start to take strategically care of something else. And you need to make sure that it has a net benefit for the company. It can be that a product is good, it's increasing, but it does not fit into the portfolio anymore. And this is where management has to make these decisions. And the biggest change here is that also you have to start manage people. Yeah, so the group PM starts to manage other seniors, maybe also individual contributors. If I changed one opinion in my life about managing other people, then that managing other people is not that fun. I really enjoyed the part of individual contributor tracks as well at some point, right? And it's not, as a senior PM, you're not managing directly anyone, right? But you're still having influence. So this is the best of both worlds, in my opinion. All right.
I had two thoughts there really quick. One,
go ahead.
I don't know if you've seen this in your career. I've seen it in my career. You highlight this a little bit. But the downside to go on the management track is you do lose touch with some of that day-to-day, those day-to-day operative skills you're referring to. The further away you get, the harder it is to relate to them and to remember how to utilize them. And then the question I had for you is, let's say I'm someone who if I don't want to manage people, maybe I know that's not my skill set, but I'm a really great product manager and I like the individual contributor path, but my core company doesn't have that path. I mean, what recommendations would you give to someone like that?
So as usual, with every question that comes in this regard, you try to change it. And if you cannot, then you're going to go. That's just what it is. Like, unfortunately, if you're a senior PM that's pushing for higher level routes like this, I think you can advocate for change, but you're not normally in a leadership position. But, and this is a very interesting point, if you allow me to answer your question right now with the second point, you have a bigger chance if you have to decide between startup and enterprise to change things in a startup. And this is exactly what you were getting at. It is possible that the startup just does not have these structures. And this is a great opportunity for you to make suggestions and actually change stuff. This is how I also advanced in my career quite a lot. I had my fingers in things that actually I should not have had my fingers in. And I said like, hey, okay, let's just structure it this way. This is my suggestion. This is how it makes sense. This is why. And you can now have opportunities to try out a lot of different things on top, right? So like, you know, I'm suggesting this new structure. So let's say you're doing this and let's say you succeed with it. You can put it in your CV. Now you have some management experience. Like, hey, I actually built the individual contributor track at this particular company. They accepted it and then they went with it. Be bold, have ideas, you know, like put the stuff out and make suggestions. You're not alone. If the idea is not good, then, you know, go somewhere else, whatever. It's easier said than done. I know, I'm aware. But yeah, but the downside is that this needs a lot of self-discipline to not overwork. That's usually also what I see, is that people are trying to compensate with time. It is a crucial skill in any size of any company that you manage your time well, in the sense that I'm only tackling stuff that has impact. If you overwork, I'm not going to reward you. If you work for me, you're not going to be complimented for working 12 hours a day. I don't want to see this. I think this is a lack of skill. You do the best that you can in the 8 hours that you have, because you're masking the fact that we are understaffed. You make it harder for others, and you're being a bad role model for everyone else that also has to work normal hours, right? So you have more influence in the end, right? In a startup, you have more responsibility. It can be right fun. I prefer startups in general, but it doesn't mean that they're the better way, because there's also bad startups, let's be honest.
We do need to grab that soundbite that you just said about the discipline of not overworking and spread that far and wide.
And there's great books on the topic as well. Like we need to really, sorry?
I just said plus 100 to that. I'm just
yeah. Plus 100 to that, and yeah. So let's see like how does it look in enterprises, right? It's more calm. It's solid processes. You also probably, maybe you don't work that much. Maybe it's 10 tendencies, right? But like Google is also an enterprise, so I guess it's not necessarily true. But it's great for learning frameworks. In my experience, like everything is more standardized. You know, like you probably have a very solid Scrum process. There's nothing to escape that. If you're unlucky, you start in an environment that has to deal with safe. If you don't know what that word means, good for you. You have less influence, you have less responsibility. So in the end, you need to decide for yourself what is the right thing to do. But this is a very broad generalization. What I want to say is that if you have a bad experience in either one of them, do not generalize. There's good enterprises and there's good startups. And there is awful enterprises and there's awful startups. Just want to say this, because I had some terrible experiences in my life, and then I generalized and I said, I am never going to go back to startups. This is awful. And now I love it, right? So like you need to also create your own environment in this sense. Another decision that you have to take for yourself is like, do you want to specialize or not? Very, very common question. We need to decide at some point, do I want to have a general profile from all the skills that a product manager consists? And there's a million ways out there on how you're going to evaluate a product manager and their skills, product delivery, quantitative analysis, qualitative analysis, and so forth. You cannot know everything. You cannot be the best in everything. That's not possible, but you can definitely start to specialize in something. And that's what I highly recommend to you. With some caveats, right? You might get chosen for your specialization and then only do that for the rest of your career. So it also depends on how you structure your CV after that. And it can take time to know what you want to specialize in. So let's say you want to specialize in growth, right? So like I want to be a growth PM because my aunt is also a growth PM and I want to do that, what she does, right? So it can be that you land yourself in a bucket, but specialization can also be something smaller. Like I want to learn about data analysis or, you know, like qualitative analysis, that kind of stuff. So in general, I'm in favor of T-shaped profiles. This is what we call a T-shaped profile in recruiting. If I find someone with a specialization that has some broad skills, generally solid, I will take them over someone that is much better on the foundations, but has no specialization. Because you can always teach people, you know, general skills, of course, but I love it when someone is actually specialized in something. So for my career, for the longest time, I was calling myself an innovation PM because I focused on finding product market fit. That was my thing, to really figure out what do customers want and how do we actually bring a product out that makes the most sense. Here's a stupid joke. Build an effective career plan, so focus. And the picture is of someone that actually lost their focus. So for those in the chat that do not know what cars are, that's a Ford Focus.
Car. You should be happy it's in the river.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, but it's a Ford Focus. Okay. So the first difficulty that you actually might encounter in this entire journey is that you might be trying to protect your image, right? And this is having a growth versus a static mindset. And I want to get into this. I'm sorry, I sound very preachy so far, but this is the worst screen grab that I ever took. But what is it that we mean when we talk about a growth mindset and a fixed mindset? I was, for the most part of my career, I was stuck in a fixed mindset. And this was exactly describing me on the right-hand side to a scary degree. And more people are in this than you might be in this without noticing. And some days we may be going a little bit back to this and then we're more on the left-hand side, but try to be on the left-hand side as much as possible. I don't want to get over everything, but I really want to say that a fixed mindset is someone that is ignoring feedback in order to look smart. Yeah. So like you pretend that you're listening to feedback, but you're going to challenge it. Like, yeah, but, but, right. And you're threatened by other success. Like, what is this person doing? Like, you're constantly looking over what this person is doing. And what this leads to in the end is that you have fixed abilities. You're not going to progress because you're not accepting feedback. And it's more important to you to actually protect your own image, right? And this is limiting. And why is this limiting? Because you are essentially you are dependent on external validation from other people. We all are to some degree, but we should really get rid of this, because only if you care about what your own personal growth is, right? And this is my entire mantra here for this presentation. That's why I'm also really hammering down on this, is that only if you do not care about the perception of others is when you can actually take their feedback and say, okay, this did happen. This is the feedback they gave me. This is the impression that I actually elated in them. Whether it's true or not is besides the point, but this is what happened, right? Like, I don't criticize the feedback so easily, right? It's more about, okay, this actually happened, right? No matter how much I argue against the feedback, it still is here. And that's what I mean, right? Like you can argue if you're super combative and you just constantly fight against feedback, at some point, nobody will give you feedback and you might think like, oh, look, I'm pretty good, right? The truth is everybody just hates you, right?
Yeah, I'm curious, is there any feedback that you can recall getting that maybe you didn't taste good at the beginning, but has helped advance your career?
You mean feedback that I did not like?
That you received, someone gave you some feedback, yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. So the second time I had a new CPO at some company, I was crying in the call because he told me that all my work that I did was shit. Now, it's not the form that he should have said it, but what he said is that I did not. So like I was working on a relatively big project for a desktop client, and I failed to make a proper business case. This was a project that we just started to work on, which is very common in product management. You don't do feedback, you don't do research, you don't do a proper business case, like how big is the market, who is going to be our core user group and that kind of stuff. I did not do it at all. We just started to work. I hired 4 or 5 people and so forth. And the criticism was very valid. And I did not want to hear this, right? And that's, I immediately was in tears and I had very difficult time to actually accept this feedback. But in the end, it's true. It's exactly true. And on the other side, if you now go into the shoes of the leader that told me this is not easy, right? Like he made me cry. He made me feel really bad. So you need to sustain this and really think about, look, now it's up to you what you're doing with this. I'm giving you this gift and this is not fun, right? Like he also did not enjoy this. He was just like, this is not good. You're delivering bad work and you're actually working into the, into the void, right? So this is not a good prepared business case. So I really just wanted to also bring this home along with the imposter syndrome, because it doesn't matter how much you talk yourself up, you're not going to talk this away. Feedback is feedback. We all have problems. I will also look over this presentation afterwards, and I also try to give myself feedback. I will also receive feedback from you guys. I know, for instance, that I move my hands too much sometimes, that kind of stuff. But yeah, so let's be open so we can actually see what others see, so we can become better. And discovering gaps is very important. We're going to get into this, into the more practical side now of things right now. Do we have any questions that are important to address?
I'll take, if you want to take one question, there's one here about specialization, saying, what about specializing in a certain industry or type of business like B2B? Many PM roles I saw required industry experience, and I'm concerned about getting pigeonholed.
Yeah, so very true. I think domain expertise is over-indexed in this industry. I do not care too much whether you are a payment expert for a payment domain, because I think you can learn it. What you cannot learn that well is the foundational product management skills. But if you promise to, or like, if not if you promise, but like if you show to me, if you show promise that you are an exceptional product leader, you will learn about the payment stuff yourself as well. Maybe payment is a bad example because it's also a skill in product management. But let's say an industry specialization in, I don't know, industrial composite design, what, something really, really specialized. I don't think it's necessary, but there are companies out there that really say like, no, you need to be specialized in this. Personally, I don't think you should hire like this. You should hire for attitude and soft skills and then learn on the job. So I cannot tell you. The reality is that some companies do look out for this. The question is, do you want to work for them? I don't know. I tend to say no.
I was going to say, that's my addition, is when I get that kind of thing, I would begin asking questions, exploring the why behind that. Yeah. If I'm able to talk to a recruiter or anything. And if they're hardline in this and I don't align with that domain expertise, industry expertise, then I leave it behind. Yeah. Probably not where you want to be then. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Let's take the next question afterwards, because I'm going to talk about this a little bit. So let's just go to the most valuable feedback that I have ever received in my entire career over the 22 years. And this should tell you something. Someone told me, one of my direct managers told me, no matter what kicks your ass, you always get up and do it better. And this was after being managed for like 1.5 years. And this is the last slide where I'm praising myself now. But this was the best compliment, because if you think about it, this is not about, oh, you're really good at presentations, or like, oh, you're really good at running OKRs. Oh, you're really good at driving business impact. It's just that it's not about the mistakes that you do. I can trust you. And I was also working very hard that I get this trust. I can trust you that if something goes wrong, you will actively do something about it. And you will ask for help if something goes wrong. And if we see something going wrong, you try to do it better, right? You try to do it better, because sometimes we fail twice in the same thing. That also happens. But it is about what you make out of your mistakes. This is an incredibly valuable skill. If I can trust someone to do it better, to take feedback and actually improve, I will take them any day over the guy that is always successful, because that's not possible, right? This is trust. I knew at that moment that he trusts me. And this was not about some skill or whatever that I have on top. He was complimenting my growth mindset at that point. And I've never heard that before in my career. Only now that I actually put in the work, this is what I heard. And this is from a respectable person that I also respect as a PM. So, you know, that meant a lot to me. So here's the second difficulty to deal with, right? So like, it's about getting experience in something that you do not have experience, because this goes a little bit also into the open question to some degree that we still have in the QA. Let's say you want to have any PM job. You're on an entry level, or like you're outside and you just want to have any product manager's job. And then you hear this, like, you don't have any product management experience, we'll take someone else. This is a difficult question. It's also the reason why a lot of companies exist, to try to also help you with theoretical knowledge courses. That's a good thing, right? We want to have some theoretical knowledge, but sometimes it's just not enough. You can just not land the job despite, and you still need these courses and you still need the knowledge, of course, right? But here's my point. What you also can do is you can try to surface and learn any transferable skills. And that means product managers deal with the entire life cycle of a business, run a business. If you're into makeup, then run a makeup online store and try to sell some things, or do a lifestyle blog, whatever you want, right? But try to run something, because even if you fail, it still can be surfaced, and then you will find the job, because in your CV it says, hey, she's actually running a business. She knows how this goes. And she applied some of the things that she actually learned in these webinars. because you can apply this stuff. And this is what I meant before, like the theoretical knowledge is at the very start. You learn something in a book, something in a course, but now turn it into gold. How? You're going to apply it somewhere. Don't wait. Do something with it. You can write 300 CVs, or you can actually try to do something on the side as well and try to start building it, right? So this is giving you a transferable skill. No matter what you do, and this goes a little bit into the domain experience as well. If you have been an engineering manager, okay, maybe you don't have product management skills, but you know how to manage other engineers or other people, right? So like maybe now you're a good fit for a product role where you also have to manage other people at some point, and so forth. So let's say this question is now coming up, right? I want to go into PM leadership skill, a very, very difficult question. You do not have enough leadership experience, we'll take someone else. So what can I do? I can start to coach and growing other PMs for free. And that way I gain leadership experience. If I'm applying for another job now, I can show them, hey, I have 40 direct reports, if you want to call it this. And I have reviews from them. They have rated me. This is all public. I have a public profile on Mentor Club. And they can see this. This is direct leadership experience visible to everyone. And that's how you land the job in there if you did not have any experience. This may be also removing an obstacle internally. So you can just say like, hey, Todd, look, I worked on my skills for 6 months in the last thing, and I was coaching 20, 30 people. This gave me a lot of experience. Do you think I'm ready for doing something internally like this? Sure, give it a try. Here's a project, right? It makes it much easier for leaders like us to also say then, hey, you know what, just this is fine, right? Like there is something here, right? You don't need to do it on your job. And let's say you want to take something that I do recently. So I have a couple of skills that I want to improve on. Don't ask me why, but there's always a specific reason, right? So I want to become better at marketing, sales, and I want to become better at machine learning. So let's take marketing. I want to become better at marketing. There is passive media that you can consume, which is books, podcasts, and courses. Why is it passive? Because you're not really interacting unless it's like a cohort-based learning or something, but like by and large, these are passive medias. It's good, you know, like you get theoretical experience. But there always is some opportunity where you can internally or you can run a private project that requires marketing skills. Let's go back to the internal thing, like where we said, like we're running a lifestyle blog or something, right? There's a lot of marketing skills that goes into this. So you can try to acquire paid advertising, that kind of stuff, and so forth, and you go forward. And then there's also active media, like LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, where you start to engage with others. You can discuss about it, right? You can try to apply the stuff. You can share and learn what you actually learned. Right? So like you can start to share and write up what you actually learned. We're going to get into this also in a second. So the learning from this is do not wait. If you don't have an opportunity internally, do not wait. Take a detour if necessary. It takes longer, I know, but it's longer is better than never. Experience is more worth than theoretical knowledge, but you need the theoretical knowledge to actually start some experience in your real life, but you need it, right? So that's why we should do it this way. So let's talk about the last part, which is practical growth fruits, things that I have experienced, tested, and also know that they work. So let's just go to classical product development. When we develop a product, everybody should know this in here, we try to get first users for feedback. So we have users that are using the product, then we have them for feedback. We start to develop the product. Now we try to prove that they retain. And then we scale the users. We're going to get more in them, and then we start to monetize them. That's the classical product cycle of how to develop a product. So the first one that you can actually do is you can become better by teaching others. I'm not saying you have to do this. So try to just like listen to the principle here. This is on a scale of years, right? You can start with this today. You can be active in communities and peer groups. There are product management leadership cycles, not leadership, sorry, like product management meetups where you can go and visit and also talk to others. Do that. There's no reason why you're not, if you're not doing this, there's no reason why you're not doing this. You can do this right now, either internally with other events or whatever. You should learn from others. You should talk to them. You should see how others that are further in the journey are actually presenting on topics, what you like about them, what you don't like about them. You can talk about domain expertise. You can extend and you can learn. That's the main purpose here. This is very, very easy to do. Then you can start to present your own topics, stuff that you are proud of or passionate about. Hey, you know, this is how we organize our OKRs. This is how I organize my backlog. It doesn't need to be crazy, right? Put yourself out there. Reach out to podcasts and event hosts. Be the presenter in one of these events. And you can be absolutely a junior PM on this. Absolutely. You do not need to be a senior PM. You don't need to talk about how to create the next product that is going to reach a 300 million evaluation. This is about to generate reach, to become slowly known for yourself as well, but also for others, and to solidify your knowledge. Because if you have to present on a topic, you're going to think way different about it, right? Now I have to write it down. I'm not just know it, right? Like now I need to communicate it to others. This is how you get better at writing and also presenting. Some people wrote this before. Then at some point, if you have the confidence, start to coach others and mentor for free. You can do this by telling in the second point, as you presented, you offer free coaching, or you can register yourself on mentorclub.com, whatever, to also offer yourself up as a mentor. You can teach founders, friends on other products for free, right? There's no money involved. It's just like, hey, like I would like to give you my advice that I have. And with this, you will check your learnings and you will also discover your gaps, because you will get into situations where you do not have an answer anymore. And that's super important, because that is the first signal that you're lacking some knowledge that you were not aware of. And that's where you go back and start to learn. Then you're going to eliminate these gaps, right? We start to learn again from these other communities. We start to get actually this, you see how this is kind of a loop, right? So like we start to discover these gaps. You're going to enhance your CV afterwards, right? As we go forward, if I'm going to advise a company, I'm going to put it in my CV. I'm an advisor, right? Like if you go to my CV right now, you see that I'm actually advising right now 4 companies actively. And I'm going to brag about this. It's cool. Because at some point, if you do this successfully, you have more people than you can handle, and then you can start to charge for it. The point is not the monetizing here. I just want to tell you that at the end of this journey, there's also kind of a career, in the sense that this is an excellent preparation for product leadership further down the road, because you're starting to advise others. You have to bear the consequences for it. If you charge for money for it, you're being held accountable, and so forth. So this is about monetizing. You can improve your CV and so forth. I don't want to run over time, so now I have to speed through this one as well here, because this is also something that I'm going to be quite passionate about. If coaching is not for you and it makes you insecure, I understand that. It's totally for me. I love it. Then you can also write content. This is especially good for the introverts, if you want to, let's just call it this, right? So like people that do not like to stand in front of people. But do remember, do not punch above your weight. If you're a junior and you start to talk about leadership topics that probably someone can only answer that has already 10 years of experience in it, because you try to imitate someone else, first of all, you're going to run out of a lot of topics very soon. And it's just not believable. Write about something that you are active about in product communities and peer, like this thing again, right? So like the stuff that we talk with other people that we actually are experiencing. And try to do it on LinkedIn, right? So like we're doing it on LinkedIn or Instagram, TikTok, wherever you want to engage with people, comment, upvote, connect with people. So this is about connecting and practice challenging. Put your opinion out there. As you put yourself out there, you will be challenged. You have some doofus coming into your comments and saying like, oh, this is not true. And then it's up to you how you handle it. You can start to write articles and posts. This is what I started to do. You can have a content about your learning journey. You don't have to talk about leadership topics that are for people that have been in the industry for 10 to 20 years. Talk about what you're learning. You don't have to, like, hey guys, look at this amazing article that I found over there. Consistency above everything else. So consistency means you get up, you do it once a day or once a week, whatever. I do it twice or 3 times a day. You just put something out there. That forces you to get into a habit. And this is why you need passion. If you're not passionate about what you write, it's going to be really hard to do something every day. And the reason for this is that you want to get challenged by the community and you want to generate reach. And you want to, again, discover gaps, because if you talk about something that is not that solid, you will notice that nobody's engaging with it, nobody's reading it, and your writing style might also not be that good. And then the third step is to question and learn publicly. And this is something that you can do. You can ask for experts on your gaps. You can discover with your followers as you learn, and then you're sharing this again. So yesterday I was wondering what happens when la, 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 la. And then I went on the net and then I found this out. Make a story out of it. Put it out there. This is covering your gaps. You're actually learning something from it. You can intensify your knowledge again. And then at some point, if you're doing this very long, because this is what happened for me as well, is you become a factor in hiring and social selling. And what that means is that people want to work with you. And that's an advantage, because if I'm going to go somewhere, then some PMs will follow. because they want to work with me, not because I'm awesome. It's just that they know my content, right? And they know like, hey, I want to work with Leah. That's pretty cool. This is how we call the monetization step. It doesn't mean that I'm being paid by the people that I'm going to get in. It's just that it becomes a factor with hiring you because you have a very knowledgeable, like not a knowledgeable, but a known face. And the sky is the limit in this regard. So these are the two flows that I know work because I did them for myself. The principle is here. Do not wait. You can start with the stuff today, see what works, get into a habit, bring it out there, grow slow. Don't start to write a course now on strategy and then try to monetize it. You don't have followers yet, yeah? So start slow, right? So the last piece of this is that like the types of content that you can put out. Look what I found. Hey, this is really interesting. I still do that, by the way. It's pretty interesting. Learn with me content. Look what I learned. You know, like yesterday we had this meeting and that was super interesting and so forth. You will have other people that are following you on the same level that love this content. If you start to get into the advanced framework content, make sure that you're also using this in the job, right? So like, don't punch above your weight. This is important. And that's it. So now we're going to go into the QA. I know I ran a little bit longer than this. I'm really sorry.
No, this worked perfectly.
And yeah, let's go.
I'll go ahead and read through the questions. I mean, this is great. You did a great job, and you got a lot of interaction here. So let's go through them. One of them is, I agree with your point that titles can be misleading, but I have also noticed that some organizations get unnecessary suspicions if someone applies for a lower title position, but maybe a bit more impactful responsibilities than they had in their previous job. How should we manage this situation? So if it's a lower title than their previous job, how do we manage that?
Yeah, I think I understand. So I think to play the devil's advocate, you need to understand from the hiring manager's position, and this is overly simplified, right? Like, but from the hiring manager's position, why would someone that has been a director wants to work as a senior PM again? It really depends on your answers because the hiring manager will ask you this. And if you can say like, look, the management track is just nothing for me. I just really want to work as an individual contributor. That might be already quite a good answer. Now, if you start as a senior PM coming into an application process, and now you're applying for a junior position, I'm going to ask why that is the case, right? Because what we do not want to have is someone that leaves after half a year, and that's why they're becoming suspicious because they feel unchallenged. I think it's a fair statement. And it's not about you convincing the others. It's also not helping you if you get into a position where you're overqualified. So I'm not sure I answer your question adequately, but I think like also try to look at it from the perspective of the company.
I think that's great. I was going to add there to remember too, almost any interview you go into, they're looking for three things. It's always, all the questions come back to three things. Can you do the job? Do you want the job? And am I going to like working with you? And the fear, to Leah's point, the fear is that you don't really want the job. You're just taking it because you need quick money or something else. So you need to do a great job of expressing exactly to me why you want this job so I can believe that you're going to stay.
No.
Let's see. Next question. How to influence cultural shifts. For example, old school managers are now leading the product teams with project mindset. Is there a way to influence them?
Very difficult. It usually requires a CPO or a VP, someone like me that comes in and just changes the organizational culture. Because I think the thing that you're referring to with your question is this old style of product management. I hope it dies. I really hope it does, because what these people usually do are project managers. I don't have anything against project managers, but product managers back then were in matrix organizations. They were all sitting on a floor, and then the engineers on another floor, and then the designers on another floor. There was no cross collaboration. And I don't know how to influence the culture shift out there other than like, starting to advise companies and shift the company from the outside, or actually hiring another leader. My advice is, unfortunately, if this is happening in a company, extremely hard to change from internally. Probably do something else for yourself, or try to change it internally for yourself, for your team, but that's going to be limited. So realistically, in my career, I have to tell you, I should have just left. Sorry, this is not a great answer, but yeah.
No, I'll add something there too, because I agree with you completely, Leah. And the thing I've seen in my career, the only time I've ever had any impact there is you basically have to take on more work for free. So you have to be willing to do the extra work to show the benefit of the differences. And to Leah's point, you have to evaluate whether or not that trade-off's worth it, because it may not be worth it. So why put in that extra time and energy?
No.
This one is a great story here. I started my career right after grad school, MBA, in a startup I like IT biz, led as both a marketing director and senior business analyst for years. The challenge is this entire professional experience happened over 20 years ago. Now I've been a senior PM and senior principal PO. How do I include this director level titles without listing any jobs from 20 or 30 years ago? Needless to say, the experience is very relevant to every role since.
So the unfortunate truth is that whatever you did 20 years ago might be valuable in terms of the overall experience that you had. So while I sucked also at my job 20 years ago, I still gathered some experience, right? But just because I was a head of product back then does not mean that I'm a good head of product right now. I think, Maggie, you are exactly at the point where you have to cross this product leadership canyon again, especially if you're senior PM, senior principal PO. If you ever want to go back into management positions, you need to learn leadership again. And it's not that this is just the same as it was 20 years ago, especially product leadership just requires very difficult skills nowadays. I would say that, again, it's a depressing answer, like it's not that your knowledge was wasted. It's just that you need to really display that you're still also relearning the stuff now on a more actual level that we are practicing today. I know how difficult it is because this is also what happened to me, right? Like I was a senior PM for quite a long time before I actually started to get over this. And I already founded my companies, like I had my companies 15 years ago, not a problem. Did not help me because it's too far back. And I understand it, right? But like the good thing is you will have a shorter time to actually relearn this stuff because you do have this experience. So I think, unfortunately, my answer is relearn, resurface, and show to others that you can do this, right? So like, yeah, you need to display. You should not go into a meeting and say like, yeah, but 20 years ago, I was a senior director. It's not going to score.
No. I love that feedback, or I love that answer. That's a great answer. And I have to read this next one. Leah Tharin, you're much more beautiful than your AI representation and actually smarter. I don't think
thank you very much. But I'm actually a robot, so this is not my real face here. So. Can I take maybe the one before that? I don't want to skip over it. So how do you manage this?
Oh, I did skip that one. Yeah, how to manage. It seems like a lot of learning applying while you are also working and balancing life.
Yes. So as I said, one of the best skills that you can learn, and usually I learned this also too late in my career, do not compensate with your time. You can do more in 5 hours efficiently than you can do in 10 hours unfocused. A very good book on the subject, I don't want to get too much into detail, is 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. It's about how to strategically disappoint people. This is not about getting more and more efficient. It's just about only the things that matter in your job need to run. Everything else is just vegetables. Nothing against vegetables, but that's what we say. It's just vegetables and noise. Yeah. Deal with the most important stuff. Then you're safe to disappoint the rest. Because as a leader, you will start to disappoint people because there's always more to do than what you can actually do. And this is how you balance your life. You do not overwork, you work smart. I know it's a stupid saying, but this is really what it is. 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman, highly recommended. We can also put it somewhere in the chat if somebody finds it. But yeah, it's a difficult question, but like it's a skill that I love seeing in people.
I love the focus on Steve Jobs said, I'm just as proud of the things we haven't done as the things we have done, right? So great feedback. Last question here. This is from Danielle. How do you handle writing content about something you are experiencing at work if your coworkers are reading it and it is about them?
Fantastic question. This is so funny because no matter how you anonymize something, everybody will think it's about them. I absolutely have given up, even if it's not about them, right? So like if I talk about a project that failed, I have like 3 DMs afterwards in my inbox like, hey, are you talking about me? Is this what we did last week? And I'm like, no, that's not what I talk about. Absolutely not. So, I mean, obviously don't wash your dirty laundry in the chat or like in your LinkedIn profile. But I talk about everything that happened at Microsoft 15 years ago, from the really embarrassing stuff to whatever. I don't care anymore. Now, it doesn't matter because nobody knows who that was. But if you talk about the CEO of your current company, people will find out. So be careful, right? So like, I think you can abstract something still, like on a serious note, you can abstract something without mentioning names. And I think that's the way to go because there's always a learning in something. But you don't need to tell like, oh, I hate my engineers. They are totally out of control. You know what I did this morning, right? So like, it usually should be about yourself and your own growth, I think, and that's safe to write about. Like, be creative about this. But I know exactly what you mean. It's a great question.
That's a great question. All right, let's go to the last slide. We're at time. Thank you so much, Leah. And I want to tell everyone, like, if you're looking to build those core product management skills, we got a fantastic list in your responses. Most of those things are covered in either our 280's group's flagship optimal product management course, or some of the analytics things you're looking to learn are from the digital product management course. And our training prepares you to take and pass the AIPMM certification exam to become a certified product manager. You can add this to your resume and get noticed by recruiters. So thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Leah. That was fantastic. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone, for paying so much attention to us. That was great. Thank you.